welcome to Indie by Design episode 10. This episode features Tequila Works, the creators of Rime and Deadlight. Indie by Design is a show in which we sit down and talk to game designers to understand their motivations, their philosophies and their goals. You can follow us on Twitter at Indie by Design, or you can visit our website indiebydesign.net. This show is brought to you by Stace Harmon and John Robertson, and in this episode you're listening to me, John Robertson. The following discussion with Tequila Works features CEO and creative director Raul Rubio, as well as lead designer Kevin Sarda. It covers everything from why the two chose to channel their creativity through games, the design mantra that underpinned Rime, and how Deadlight, even though it's a very different game, influenced that mantra. We begin with Raul Rubio discussing how creativity can come from reacting to what you've already experienced and done as a designer.
I think it's always the case with creative processes. Like the creators always, I'm not going to say frustrated, but you are not happy with your work, because basically from the idea to the inception and execution, it's a long trip and all ideas change, right, and go. So for Deadlight, the core idea was finding light in darkness. I mean, it's not casual that all the game is basically rendered like a backlit silhouette 2.5D diorama, right? So it's so, I mean, that's why the zombies are shadows, because they are literally shadows. They are corpses, they are basically shells of their former selves, but more importantly, they are depicted as black silhouettes, right? So since Deadlight is again about darkness and finding that humanity, that life in all this death and darkness, Rime is, you're right, the opposite. This is it's a game about the world fully engulfed by light. So it's a game about light and color, right? So everything is so Mediterranean in the sense that, they're not even black shadows, everything is blue. At least when you start. You have played till the end, so you understand that this is more like an evolution process, right? So Rime is about finding that darkness in life. It's about when you are a child and you are a kid, you are not aware of the dangers of the world, and you need to learn the rules of this world. And that's true for all of us, the players and your avatar, the kid. So Rime is a game where basically every time you think that you understand the rules of the world, then the world adds more rules. And in a sense, that's different for Deadlight. In Deadlight, basically, you are playing this average Joe, an everyday man that is surviving the zombie apocalypse, and it's a zombie game where instead of trying to kill all the zombies, you need to run away from the zombies, right? So we said, what if we create a game about exploration, but instead of being a survival experience where basically you are going to be afraid of everything, because, I don't know, probably a mushroom is going to kill you. A pot of water is going to kill you. Probably a damn pine tree is going to kill you. And of course, the wild boars are going to kill you. And those shades, absolutely, they are going to kill you, definitely. So we reversed that and we said, look, if you are a child, you are a kid, you are like in Disneyland. I mean, yes, there are many nasty things happening in the backyard of Disneyland, probably. I don't have proof about that. But when you are a kid, you are not aware of that. You are basically having fun in this fantastic new world, right? So for us, having grown in the Mediterranean meant that we remember and we try to project these childhood memories of us on the coast and the Mediterranean, and those moments in life where everything was new. And it was a paradox, because in this world everything is old, like in real life. New doesn't mean that it's shiny and new. That means that for you it's a moment of discovery, right? And that's why Rime starts as a game with no real purpose. You are standing in the island, you don't know what to do, but again, as a kid, you start playing. And you slowly find the purpose. You find the tower, you want to go there, and then, many things start to happen, when the island wakes up, and you suddenly, figure out that you are a trespasser, etc. So without digging into spoilers, that's all I can say. But you totally understand that this is a process, right? It's about, these different stages and how you are facing the situation.
Yeah, we would say it's an opposite game from Deadlight, but both in Deadlight and Rime there's a button to scream.
And also Birdman.
Yeah, so, and also Burden, so it's not totally the opposite.
Yeah, the fact that you are a kid in Rime, and as you say, you do experience a lot more roles as the game progresses, and you experience a lot more new environments, and things like new lighting and new rules around lighting, and you're learning all of these things as you go. Was that the reason that you wanted the player to play as a child in the first place, so that you could bring in this, you would have a kind of a real context for allowing all of this wonder to exist? Did it come from that design side, or did the fact that you wanted to play as a kid come from a different place, maybe a narrative place, or you were inspired by something specific prior to designing the game?
Well, of course, in this game, you may have noticed that it's not a game that is, only driven by narrative or art or design or technology. It's basically, a dance where we are playing this tango, a trois, between design, narrative, and art, right? So I can tell you that the reason you are a child, you are a kid, is narrative, of course, because you, the player, not just the avatar, you are, like a child in this new world. I mean, at first you may understand it pretty easily, that you can walk, you can jump, you can climb, etc. But as we introduce more and more dreamlike or even mechanics, like the use of light and shadow, or the shout and the sound, etc., you need to contextualize and rationalize those elements, right? Again, if you are a kid, you are open-minded to all this. Probably you were some kind of bald speed marine, probably you would be more narrow-minded, and you would try to blow it to pieces instead of try to reason with sentence, right?
Of course, the decision for the kid to be a kid is narrative, but from the design perspective, it's something that came in real handy, something really useful for us, because considering that the game has no text, no dialogues at all, the force that is driving the player forward is curiosity all the time. So you need a character that, as Raul said, is watching everything with fresh eyes, that if he's facing something unexplainable, he just wants to move forward and know more. Because if you were like a normal stranded guy in an island, the first thing you will do is build a hut or start searching for food. Instead, this kid is not worried about anything. He just wants to know more, and that is something that the player can relate to, because they also don't understand where they are. So in some way, being a kid and being curious all the time is just the right mindset that we want for the player. So it was the perfect avatar for that.
Mm-hmm. Also, in terms of bonding, it was important that, you need to bond with your avatar, but at the same time, there's no dialogue or anything in the game. So body language was key. And again, what we wanted to transmit this idea that, again, maybe the kid is totally careless and, unaware of the dangers, but that doesn't mean that, the player is not. So at the beginning, and this is something very interesting, when many adults start playing Rime, they care about the avatar like an adult is caring for a child. And again, the animation of the kid is clumsy, is pretty well.
Yeah, he shakes his arms too much when he runs, so he falls on his back.
And he has no foot for his body, and that's something that we didn't propose, because again, the body language is giving you an idea on who this character is. This is that, maybe, he's not a grown-up
person. He's not a hero.
Yeah. But basically, this transmitting this fragility is something that is encouraging, again, the contrast against the island. And all the, for example, architectonic brutalism that is scattered all over the place, right? So when you start playing and you are as an adult, you start seeing the kid, you start caring for the kid. But again, the opposite also is true in the sense that when you are playing for a few minutes, many people start behaving like children again. Like they stop, for example, caring about jumping off cliffs and, well, responding or whatever. So they start enjoying the experience, right? So, well, there was a design decision and another decision, but again, in the end, was transmitting emotions, and those emotions, well, is what Rime is about.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is there's a really nice balance set up in the game, in that how you've described when the kid is running around or climbing. He's stumbling a lot, or he's losing his grip on the wall, or whatever it might be. Excuse me. I wonder how difficult was it to get that balance between kind of transmitting that sense that this is you're playing as someone that isn't maybe as totally comfortable in their body as a typical video game sort of character might be, but yet you still want to give the player a level of precision in how you move around the world. So I suppose, how do you have the player embody the character to a point where they feel like he's going to react as they expect him to react, but also at the same time make him seem a little bit clumsy and awkward at the same time? Do you know what I mean?
And it's funny that you mentioned Deadlight earlier, because there are two reasons for this. One is obviously, again, a continuation of what we said in the previous question about this combination of art and design. But more importantly, in Deadlight, we had very strong criticism on the controls of Randall. And retrospective, I can say that yes, I mean, reviewers were right. Because there was a cinematic platformers that was supposed to be a homage to the platformers of the 90s, like Another World or Flashback. And the console was digital. But the thing is that even if the console was digital, by design, the input was analog. Because, well, consoles these days, you use a stick, you don't use a keyboard, for example, or just a joystick. So the result was that the animations were really cool, but when you wanted to jump, you had to wait for the right frame of the foot putting on the floor. So you missed that frame, well, you didn't jump until some milliseconds later, and that meant that many people died, right? So we had that in mind when we started Rime, but at the same time, and this was very important for me as the director, that the kid had to feel the kid, like Mowgli in the Jungle Book, right? So at first, I forced the animator to have all this adaptive navigation where the kid is, well, adapting to every surface, the rocks, and you can see the struggle and everything. It was beautiful. But then, when we started playing it, we realized that we had exactly the same problem as Deadlight. It was beautiful, but then the controls were not precise. And it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, if the game is not, well, effective in terms of control and input, people are going to be frustrated, and if they are frustrated, well, it's bad for us.
Yeah, so at one point we removed some of these blending animations, and we tested to remove as little as possible, but to give the player the maximum accuracy. And even if it's not a game that really requires a lot of skill in jumping or platforming, but still if the player failed and fall, it has to be because he did something wrong, not because the game responded late. But on the other hand, we also had a discussion about the kid being too powerful or not too powerful. Because, well, we know that we have a kid that is really good at climbing and swimming, and he can hold his breath for a really long time, but within the human parameters. We didn't want the kid to make double jumps or sprint like an athlete or whatever. What we always wanted was some kid that looks fragile, but not so fragile that the players get bored while playing. So yeah, for example, for the climbing, we had a lot of testing, a lot of polishing there, because we wanted the kid to go fast to places, but we didn't want him to do any supernatural moves. So that was something really important for us to balance as well.
Yeah, in the end, I think it may surprise you, but one of the references we had for the animation system was Jack and Dexter 2. in the sense that, Naughty Dog created, has been the basis for all their animation systems in all their games, but in Jack and Daxter 2, it's so relevant, at least for us, because you had all these mini animations that were blending with each other perfectly. So Jack is super fluid and very expressive and dynamic, but at the same time the controls are, platform solid, right? They're solid rock solid, sorry. And that's what we try to transmit. On the other hand, in Ico, for example, I don't know, in Ico or Shadow Colossus, you can see how you can feel the fragility of, for example, Ico or even Wonder against the Colossi when they are running and suddenly they misstep, for example, because, they're running too fast or they are holding Jorda's hand and then, they are too far from each other, whatever. So they feel that you must care for them. They are not invisible heroes, right? So finding a balance between that fluidity of Naughty Dog and that artistic plasticity of Team Ico was a true challenge. Again, as Kevin said, in the end, we had to take decisions in a case-by-case scenario where basically sometimes we had to please, or we pleased the animators in the sense that everything was as fluid as they wanted, and then we had to please design where, if you press a button, you need to jump or whatever.
But we took some ideas and placed them as cosmetic animations that are optional, and the game is filled with them. You can see how when the kid walks on a little bit of water, he raises his feet, for example. Or if you try to jump and press circle on air on top of water, you will cannonball and land in your butt. It's something that
I didn't know that.
It's there. We never explain it. It's not necessary for any moment in the game, but you can do it.
Yeah, it's part of the experience. Jumping, and when you are landing, you can roll. We never tell the player that they can do it, and again, it's not necessary. But when you start playing as a kid, many people discover by themselves because they are having fun.
Yeah,
that's good.
So we have many. Also with the kid's voice. If you try the button that you use to scream and activate objects around the wall, if you try it everywhere else, like with animals or with other characters or in scary areas or when the kid is cold, or if you try it everywhere, you'll see different reactions. Yes, even to the point that when you are in a difficult puzzle and you press that button, the kid will make a like frustrated, like, what do I do here?
So those are little touches. Again, in the end, everything is
to make the kid feel more alive.
Yeah,
basically, but respecting the accuracy of the controls.
And at the same time, that the player feels like they are playing the game, not just following some movie or anything.
Yeah. I think the use of sound and his voice is really interesting. That he doesn't. He makes sounds, but he does kind of have a language in that sense, but it's not a sort of recognisable language as we know it. And I think that gives him quite a nice kind of like universal feel. Like he doesn't feel tied to a certain nation or a certain culture, so he feels like quite an inclusive character for anyone playing, no matter where they're from. Was that a deliberate decision as well, or was that something that was born out of the kind of design and interaction concept that you were working towards?
Well, it works on several levels. The kid is the embodiment of the Mediterranean, right? So we wanted the kid to represent all these, not only Mediterranean cultures, but also what it means for us. The Mediterranean itself, not the people of the Mediterranean. So yes, that's why, for example, the kid looks at first doesn't belong to the place, but maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe he's some kind of lost prince or whatever. But something is odd. For the player, something is out of place, but at the same time feels ancient and familiar, right? So the kid is ambiguous on purpose. To the point that the kid is androgynous in nature. So if you believe that it's a boy or a girl, it works in either way. It has no gender. But as for the language, for example, again, it was extremely important for us that, and this is not only for Rime, it's just for all the games that we are making. For us, it's about human emotions. And again, it's about what makes humans human, right? Not trying to find the differences, but what we have in common. So at first, we consider using some dead languages, so the kid can speak, but you can understand what he's saying, or maybe speaking backwards, like for example,
that would be scary.
Some Nintendo games, or I think Hinko does it, right? Or even we created our own language with hieroglyphs, like in Fez, but in the end we thought that it was far better that, again, instead of telling you a literal story, we had to put the foundations and you could feel the story inside your mind, inside your heart, right? So that's why the kid, well, when he speaks, you cannot understand what he's saying, literally. And the voice, it could be a boy or a girl, I mean, because he's 8 years old, so you cannot differentiate. And that's why, for example, we're playing even more with the atmosphere and the sounds, because it's not only about the kid. I mean, he may be the only human in the island, but at the same time, he's not alone, right? The island itself is there. So, or playing with the colors and having this color palette progression. So in the end, I mean, it's more about how we try the player to feel, but instead of forcing that emotion with, I don't know, some kind of very sad music or whatever, is you do it and then the game reacts to you. I mean, that's why, for example, the audio system is dynamic. And instead of trying to be some pre-canned original soundtrack, what we are doing is having this, like in the old Lucas iMuse system, basically depending on what you are and what you are doing, and where you were, basically the music is adapting, right? And that's why probably people remember the music because it's not always there. I mean, it's always mostly atmosphere, but then it kicks and it's a natural transition from the atmosphere into the actual music. But for many players, it's like, oh, the music was playing all the time. I said, no, like you thought it was, right? So yeah, it's a weird balance. Answering your question, I don't think it was a deliberate decision. It was something that arose during development because, again, when we started developing the idea, it was the natural way. I don't know, it's like when you start writing and basically you discover the characters that were there all the time because you are asking the questions, right? I mean, you are not creating the characters. So in the end, the kid being the kid is that embodiment of, innocence.
But also the island being mysterious and all that. We wanted to feel Mediterranean, but not from some specific place.
Yeah.
So you could recognize with a hint, with language, as Raul said, or with this specific piece of architecture. Okay, it's from there. No, because it's a mystical place.
Yeah, well, I mean, specifically there are some influences from the Spanish Levante, for example, but also there are places that were inspired by Jordan. Or the kid's name, for example, is never mentioned. You can only read it in the credits, but it's Indo-European and it's from I think it's the third millennium before Christ. So it's exactly old.
So you can pinpoint the exact location of the island, so you cannot go there.
So it's mysterious on purpose. One thing that we would have hated ourselves as players is like, oh yeah, you are the lost prince of Atlantis, and you are back into Atlantis because, I don't know, the Greek, whatever, right? So it's an amalgam of places that for us feel familiar, but again, it's not, if it's about what we all have in common.
We hope you're enjoying the show so far, and if you're motivated to delve deeper into game design and game designers, then do make sure you check out our other podcast episodes and do have a look at Independent by Design, Art and Stories of Indie Game Creation. It's a hardback book combining inside stories that focus on specific studios and individuals, alongside compelling pages of original artwork and concept documents. 26 studios and individuals are included, such as Prison Architect creators Introversion Software, indie publishers Devolver Digital, and Gunpoint and Heat Signature designer Tom Francis, as well as a host of other talented creators. Just go to indiebydesign.net to get your copy today. You can follow us on Twitter at indiebydesign or on Facebook by going to facebook.com/independentbydesign. Our website, as well as being a portal through which to listen to our podcast and buy our book, is also full of interesting editorial content for you to read. Again, that's at indiebydesign.net. The second half of our interview with Tequila Works begins with Raul Rubio explaining the idea of wanting Rime from both a narrative and thematic angle to feel like a fable, and working out how to present that in such a way that makes sense for all players.
From the beginning, Rime was a fable. I mean, we wanted to make a fable, and what a fable means for us. I mean, it needs to be a story that is simple enough that with no dialogue, everyone can understand on the surface a series of, well, literal events. So you can have a beginning and a development and a conclusion, and nobody is going to reach the end and it's like, what the fuck? What? This makes no sense, right? But at the same time, you're right. We try to write the story using elements from dreams, in the sense that the dreams, and again, I'm not an expert interpreting dreams, that would be my wife, but dreams play with symbols, lots of symbols, right? I mean, I don't know, a dead fish on your bed, that means something, I don't know what, but obviously from your brain means something. So what we did was putting all these symbols scattered throughout the game. And again, we have these sequences that seems to be out of place when you are playing, like when you are in the desert, etc., that are reinforcing some ideas, some elements, like the boat, the sea, the logs, etc., and again, in terms of gameplay, that was really interesting because when you try to explain these totally surrealistic concepts of gameplay, like, I don't know, every time you scream as a G8 statue, the statue is going to open the door for you, right? At the beginning, well, it may be odd, but then you find, I don't know, a moon crest, and when you step on the moon crest, suddenly turns into a sun crest turns into a moon, and then you understand that every time you cover this in shadows, it's going to change, well, the sun into a moon, and then, well, something rises, right? In terms of gameplay, it was something super straightforward. I mean, in the sense that people understood it pretty well. In terms of narrative, you are right, it was a huge challenge because we ourselves, we didn't know if people were going to get which interpretation, right? And the first user test we did that it was late 2014, it was a huge relief for us because when people finished the game, well, instead of asking what the hell is going on, they started to tell us what they understood from the story, right? And all their interpretations were fantastic. I mean, to the point that some of them were far better than ours. So we decided that we had to empower that. I mean, that instead of limiting it and being more, yes, Hollywood-like with a very clear structure that it was foolproof, it was the opposite. I mean, creating this structure so people can project what they have in their heart based on their life experience. And we discovered that, for example, if, again, to some extent, so everyone can understand it, it's like a Pixar movie, in the sense that, like, for example, Up, right? When you are watching the movie and you are just a child, well, you can see the cartoon characters and the colors and everything, and I don't know, the earth is super fun, the dogs and all that, right? But when you are an adult, or you are a dad, or you try to have children, the first 10 minutes of art are devastating to the point that you spend half the movie just thinking about that scene, right? And you can empathize and bond with Mr. Fredricksen. For children, Fredricksen was just a grumpy senior, the typical old man that, well, when you're playing football and your ball ends in his yard, you know that you're going to ring his door and he's going to say, "Go away, it's mine now." But for you, I mean, you know that it's something deeper. And being aware that there's something deeper was super important in this game because, again, as Kevin said earlier, it's about curiosity. So you can drive the curiosity of the player just by, not by telling them, find all 100 hidden boxes or whatever. But you know what? This world is telling us a story. Do you want to know the story? Well, it's up to you. So when people start exploring, it's not because anyone is telling them to do it, it's because they want to know more, right? And the more they discover, again, even if you reach the end of the game and you didn't fully explore the game world, many of your questions are answered, but many more questions appear, right? And again, at first, we didn't know if that was good or bad, but we started realizing that people were far more open now to these kind of experiences. We decided to boost the direction.
We did have our doubts and we were a little bit scared with pacing, though. Because in terms of narrative, is what Raul said, but many games nowadays, or most of them, are really, really afraid to be quiet. Like if you have to go somewhere, but instead of going there, you wait or look around the room, somewhere calls you in the radio and say, hey, you have to disable those bombs or whatever. You have to run and do it. They don't want you to be still. And going a little bit against all that was scary because in Rime, we obviously don't have no one calling you in the radio, but we would try to give the players some direction, like you feel like you have to go there, but we don't tell them why most of the time. So we don't give them a short-term objective, besides from curiosity itself, which means that the player sometimes feels like, well, maybe he has to go there, but maybe he has to stay here, or maybe he has to go and see what's over there. And they can spend a lot of time playing the game, or they can run and beat it in way less time. But the thing is that watching players getting a little bit lost on purpose, because maybe they feel that they have to go somewhere, but they still wander around and nothing, no events trigger, nothing happens, no bomb you have to defuse is about to go off or whatever, felt like a little bit like uncharted territory. And we were seeing people playing and we were watching them going around. We always wonder, is it okay? Are they having fun? But then we ask and they say, hey, it was totally nice, it was great. And well, we say, okay, we're on the right track.
Yeah.
So let's be more brave and let's try to make the game like this, slow pace, which also fits with the fact that you're a kid. And we said before, you are not a hero. So if you have to spend some time trying something that is hard, or you have to spend some time looking around instead of going and saving the world, which is not the case, it's okay. It's okay. It's a slow-paced game. It's a contemplative game, and we are comfortable with it.
But I must confess that it was not always wine and roses. I remember in 2013, early 2014, many people, when they play the game and they start exploring, they had always the same feedback. It's like, okay, yeah, no, I love to explore. The beginning is super fun, but then there's nothing. It's because obviously all the narrative layer was not there, right? But they were right. I mean, when you have an open world where you can do everything, but at the same time it's just background. I mean, there's nothing. It turns hollow and empty, right? So for us, adding all these layers of narrative is not just us pretending to be, I don't know, uber cool or whatever. Is that we really needed this because if the island was supposed to be a character and tell you a story, well, the story had to be there, right? And again, if we didn't want to tell you a literal story about Atlantis or gods or whatever, well, it had to be something that when you reach the end of the game, you didn't feel cheated. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. So it was it was challenging.
Yeah. So I mean, when you say it was, you were in uncharted territory in terms of embracing that sort of quieter design philosophy. I mean, I know you've mentioned some other games already, Eco and Shadow of the Colossus, but does that mean that you weren't really taking much influence or inspiration from other games? Were you looking to different sources to sort of maybe provide some sort of direction or ideas about how you might want to achieve something, or was it literally you were just having to come up with every single element of how to make that work yourselves?
I think you can blame me for that, but we tried not to be influenced by other games, and to the point that we were not allowed to play any games that were released or were under development while we were making Rime. So in terms of narrative, or also in terms of structure for storytelling, our influences were more in books, like the Never-Ending Story or The Little Prince. To the point that, that's why the focus is there. I mean, it's a homage to the prince. And the thing is, at the beginning, you try to, and again, there was this trend in the last 10 years, I think it's appearing now, where developers were really scared of people being frustrated, in the sense that you had to guide them, you had to hold their hands, and you had to, tell them exactly what to do, because otherwise they are going to be, they are going to feel stupid, and no one wants to feel stupid, right, while you are playing. But there's a big difference between that and being actually stupid. I mean, no respected player is stupid, right? So, what Kevin meant is that we have to be bold enough to try to do something that most of the time us as designers were not, totally secure or comfortable at all. Like, for example, many situations we found ourselves in scenarios where we said, why can't we add some text here? Why can't we add some guidance here, or a menu, or a cutscene, or something? For example, most of the development, I was totally against the idea of cutscenes. I mean, any cutscene. In the final game, we had to put some, mostly for technical reasons, because we had to masquerade streaming. So we had to force the player to be still in some situations. But most of the time, everything is happening while you are playing, right? Because this is a game.
And even these cutscenes are always reactions to something that you've done. You don't see in a cutscene the kid suddenly changing his mind and doing something totally different. But if you, for example, try to open a door, you can have a cutscene there when you see the result. This door opening and maybe something falling, something like that.
So that's why we have to restrain ourselves in terms of literal narrative. I mean, it's like, I don't know, you are in a survival horror and you have a rocket launcher. And then a cutscene launches and you are with a handgun pistol. Because the plot requires you to do that, and instead of trying to blow the monster to pieces with your rocket launcher, you will run away scared because you only have a pistol, right? I mean, obviously that's a change in the character. I mean, probably not the character as the designers intended, but it's changing your interpretation of the character, right? Because, you have a fucking rocket launcher. So for us, I mean, all these cutscenes are reaction to something that, I mean, it's mostly the kid surprise.
Yeah, and that's why we don't have any rocket launchers in Rime.
Are you sure?
That's a spoiler.
Shit, you're right.
But the thing is that you mentioned before, Shadow of the Colossus, and it's true that we want to be like those games, but not because the game is similar to them, just because they did something different. Instead of doing what everybody else was doing, they tried to do something different, and that's the only thing we have in common. Because even in Shadow of the Colossus, even with that story, without words, it's true that you know why you're doing what you're doing. Because you are killing Colossus, it's really sad to kill them, but you're doing it for someone. You're doing it to wake up that princess or that girl. So you do have a long-term objective. In our case, we have this kid that wakes up in an island, you see a tower, and it kind of looks mysterious, but you are not told what to do, and you don't know what's going to happen when you get there.
Yeah.
So it's a different territory.
Well, I really think that we need to start categorizing games as the genre games with children. I mean, every game that the main character is a kid, it should be, because all these games that we are being compared to, they are great games, obviously, but all of them are you are great.
The genre could be games with children that are not Kingdom Hearts.
That's one of the things, right? Yeah. Anyway, for example, in Journey, I mean, Journey was an inspiration for us, I can tell you, in terms of experience. I mean, not the literal game, because, the gameplay is very different. But in Journey, I mean, we're blown away on how the game literally starts on the desert. You are sitting there, you see the mountain, it's in front of you, you go for the mountain, right? It's a linear game, and again, the mountain is your long-term goal. I mean, it's the end of the game. Many people are surprised when they play that they start playing and they reach the tower so soon, because they expect that the tower was going to be the end of the game. Again, we never told them that it's top of the tower. That would be a spoiler. Sorry.
I wonder, as a medium, You're talking about these things like not having the player be frustrated, or a player maybe expecting or being surprised at the comparatively shorter length of something like Journey, and Edith Finch that came out recently as well. It's a very short game. Do you think games are, and I'm including Rime in this as well, like do you think games are, as a medium, finally getting away from this sort of very narrow-minded idea that a game just simply has to be fun and exciting to be valuable? Do you think games are finally getting to that point where they can offer a meaning beyond just pure immediate entertainment? I mean, because it feels like whether it's been achieved or not, it does feel like people are trying more diligently to create these, to move beyond just, big spectacle pieces.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't think we're reaching there, because I think that we've always been there. You can find these kind of games since games were games. The thing is that mass manufactured media is gonna be always about flashy experiences and explosions and something easy, because it's mass-produced media. And in cinema, for example, you have awesome examples of really good films that shake your whole existence, but you also have superhero movies. So it's not that one thing is going to turn into another. It's that the media is getting more broad, and there are more and more types of different games. Maybe the problem is that we are calling everything game. We are calling a free-to-play game for cell phones, we call it game. A really long open world game like The Witcher is called game. Short artistic stories are called games, and puzzles, everything is a game. So
I don't think that's something bad.
But it's like you have documentaries, long films, short films, TV spots. In games, everything is games.
Yeah, well, but then, I mean, you have discussions like are games art and bullshit like that. I mean, it's totally empty discussions. I remember when Journey was released, that many people said, oh, this is not a game. It's some kind of experience, but it's not a game. Doesn't matter. I mean, for me, it doesn't matter at all. I mean, it was a very enjoyable experience. But you're right. I mean, and probably it's not only because of the creators, it's maybe because the gamers are maturing. And they are asking themselves deeper questions than saving the princess or saving the universe, right? That's why, again, I don't know. Let's play some game. Names of games that have a deeper intention besides trying to entertain us, like that Dragon Cancer,
like Braid,
or Baker's Quest,
or The Witness,
or
Google Home.
What? What's that?
You told me to go home. No, but there are many games like that, and there's always been. So the thing is that maybe that's true. Maybe that people at the beginning they reached for games where they wanted some way to spend 1 hour shooting something, and now since everybody plays games now, or almost everybody, there are all kinds of people looking for all kinds of experiences. Yeah, but I don't think one thing is going to replace the other. One thing shouldn't replace the other. It's okay if there are superhero movies, and it's okay if we have games like Doom. It's really, really okay. But we need everything. We need a little bit of everything. We need people doing other things as well.
I guess there's some faith in humanity if you get tired of shooting things in the face.
Yeah. You never get tired of that.
Oh, okay, yeah, some people never get tired, but well, it's okay, I guess. But sometimes you're trying to find other kind of experiences. And again, I really think that the change, that end of childhood for the games industry is thanks to, well, the gamers. I mean, the gamers are changing, and we are all changing with them. It's not only that the creators, now we wanted to be more like out there, and as Kevin said, we wanted more categories like short movies or documentaries or whatever. I mean, that's cool. But the difference is that the people playing the games, they are who are changing, and they are changing us. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this is the idea that people are changing, and then the games are changing to meet
to meet the players changed. Was there a point where, in your sort of earlier lives, you knew you wanted to make games, and are these sorts of experience that you're talking about now, this kind of experiences that are now available and becoming available in games, were these always the kind of things that you were interested in creating when you first decided to get into games, both of you, or were you originally interested in shooting things in the face and then grew out of that?
Okay. I'm going to share with you 3 moments in my life that made me end making games. So the first game I made when I was a child was about the camel who had to avoid coconuts thrown by monkeys from palm trees. I can tell you that I have never made a real game about that. This was in 64.
But it was the first step to write.
It was the first step to write. I must say that nobody has ever made a commercial game about camels avoiding coconuts from. Maybe it's the right time. But the second moment was when I first played the demo of Another World, and it was one of these floppy disks with I think it was Amiga World, the magazine. And I remember that it blew my mind to the point that I played for 3 months straight. Every day I was playing that demo, which was pretty short. And the reason is that obviously, it was a beautiful game. It's still a beautiful game. But for me, it was the first time that instead of trying to enjoy the experience, for me was it triggered lots of questions on how they made this. And then when I knew that Ichahik had made everything but the music by himself, that was enlightening, right? The third example, I think, was Chrono Trigger. When I was playing Chrono Trigger, and Luca has this dream sequence when her mother is about to be crippled for life with this accident where I don't think this is spoiler. It's a good joke. But the thing is, I couldn't save Luca's mother, and for years I was obsessed with repeating that scene. And again, as a designer, then I realized how important these moments were for the progression, not of the character, but the player's progression, right? And the maybe emotions were something that really could happen in games someday. And the fourth, I guess, would be Southeast. I was obsessed with the Zeppelins. As you remember, there's this parallax effect in the background where basically you have some elements, including some Zeppelins, that are moving with you when you are scrolling, right? And for me, I must confess that I reached the end of Shadow of the Beast just because I wanted to know who was driving the Zeppelins. Obviously, it was just a parallax effect, so there was nobody in the Zeppelins. And the final boss was this giant foot, which was pretty awesome. Those were the 4 reasons, totally random, that made me, be a game designer. So, how was for you, Kevin?
Well, I've always loved games. I played games when I was 3 years old. I started. It was a freak show. People came to my house to see me playing games because I was a 3-year-old toddler playing Aladdin in Mega Drive and finishing them games. So but I didn't want to make them. I didn't want to make them because somebody told me that I was going to be like a small gear inside a huge machine, and I wouldn't really have a chance to do something.
Wait, they told you the truth, but then you ignored.
No, I forgot about making games. I wanted to be a writer or a film director or a clown, or I didn't care. But then I played Braid. And it was similar to the stuff you said about Another World. I played Braid and I said, this is awesome. And then I heard it was done by only one guy, Jonathan Blow, and that Jonathan blew my mind. So at that moment I said, okay, if this guy can do it, I'm gonna do it as well. But then I started and it was so hard, so I looked for a team. And now they make the games. I'm a game designer, and it is awesome.
And then you did this interview with that joke.
It's a good joke. It was the right moment. Yeah.
It's like this every day.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, well, you say it's like this every day, but I'm curious as to what the dynamic within Tequila Works is, because a lot of the stuff you've spoken about is how you're approaching games differently, and you've got a different idea, and your influences come from lots of different places. Does that also reveal itself in the way Tequila Works operates? I mean, how for example, are ideas generated or critiqued within the team?
Have you played with Happy Few?
Yes, I have. Yeah, not a great deal, but yes.
So basically, the secret in Tequila Works is that all the food and drinks are free for everyone. So breakfasts are quite heavy, and we always have cake and tequila and beers.
Pills on that.
Of course, there are psychotropic drugs. We are feeding you. So you never feel the urge to go home, and then you start having beautiful and crazy ideas. No, seriously, the structure. Yes, it was a joke. The reason is that the structure that we set up for the studio was, first, it's a boutique studio. That means that we are small in purpose. I mean, we focus on quality. At the same time, we all work as a team. I mean, a real team, like a football team. We know each other, and basically we don't need a huge hierarchy or bureaucracy to manage everything, because, again, imagine a football team where basically they have 3 producers in the middle of the play trying to coordinate everyone, right? I mean, no, that's not work like that. It's essential that we all understand how the others work. More importantly, nobody tries to mess on the goalkeeper role. Is for us the same. I mean, if one guy is the art director, it's because that person is an expert in that field. So it doesn't make any sense that an executive or a producer or a director or whoever tries to tell that person how to do their job, right? So that means that the structure is flat and we all have a voice. At the same time, that means that we are sharing all the information, so the visual, the vision is global and we all share it. Obviously, that means that also we have some mechanisms, so there are decisions being made, because otherwise, if everyone has a voice, it's very difficult to reach any
conclusion.
Yeah.
Everything is a conversation always. Yeah?
So we'll have Michigan, for example. But that also means that the teams are pretty small. I mean, most of the development, Ryan has been 18 people. I mean, only at peak has been 25, and only for a brief months, because we need extra QA and testing.
It's true that we do have a team size that is good enough so that everybody knows each other's names and we all know each other.
That should be mandatory. I mean, that's essential.
I never find someone in a hallway that I don't know who he is. That's the right size. And I don't have a really good memory, so it means that the size is okay.
And I must say that in previous AAA studios that we have worked on, that happened. I mean, literally, you were walking down the corridor and it's like, this guy is visiting us, or he's working here. So that's bad. Again, that allows us to put our personal ideas and, more importantly, our personal, interests and memories in the game. For example, Ryan has been, we always say it's a personal project, because literally we have put parts of ourselves in the game. I mean, there are situations in the game that happen to us, obviously, in a less dramatized way in real life. And for example, we have, again, it's not that the strength these days in dev studios, but we have an internal game jam competition that we call Tequila Shots. Only one stage involves actual alcohol. Most of the time is us having, brainstorming ideas. And more importantly, developing personal ideas, right? That's essential, because maybe those games are not the next games we make, but those are the games we like to make, right? So some of the gameplay mechanics maybe end in future productions, or maybe the idea can be adapted to another game, or maybe, in the long term, in the future, that will be the game that we will do as a company, right? And I think that's critical, because, it's not only about knowing the name you are working with, is knowing the persons,
Also,
knowing people.
Also, you know that you're working in a company that cares about originality. It's something that in Tequila people really, really care about. Not making what everybody else does, but doing something different. We don't try to do the most weirdest thing ever, but we try to do something different. So when you're working in a company like that, every time you're going to propose something or you're going to think about something, you think, okay, it's going to be original enough. I mean, it's not the easiest way. This is something different. Otherwise, you don't even tell it. But it's because it's the way we work, and we do that every day, and you get used to. And it's okay. Some people do that. Some people don't do that. Some people do have a formula, and they have to follow it, and that's totally respectable. And that's a different way of working. But here, you know that you have to try to be original in every detail, everything you do.
For more on games and game creators, visit indiebydesign.net and follow us on Twitter at indiebydesign. The Indie by Design podcast is released every Wednesday and is brought to you by the writers and creators of Independent by Design, Art and Stories of Indie Game Creation. It's a hardback book and it's available now on our website. If you enjoyed the show, then please do take the time to leave us a review on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform. Music for this episode is kindly provided by Ben Prunty.